Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. If you caught our last video, we kind of teased you guys and we milled up these 9 4x4x12 footers and asked you guys to comment below what you thought our next building project was going to be. And the most popular answer was not correct, which was some kind of pavilion gazebo shelter down by the new pond. And only 1 or 2 people actually guessed what we're going to be building next. So these 9 4x4x12 foot beach logs is not going to complete the project, but it's going to give us a pretty decent start. And that is going to be, we're going to build a log bucking table over here next to the East of Maid 37D. I really like using the excavator to pick up logs, hold them up off the ground and cut them. The problem is you can only do 1 log at a time and it's a lot of in and out of the machine. Whereas if I build a log bucking table here, I can go ahead and set 3 or 4 logs on, cut them all up, and then split them and then do it all over again. So instead of being in and out of the machine 4 times, I can just be in and out once and do a lot more sawing and splitting than climbing in and out of the machine. So that's the plan for today, but I'm not gonna build it down here because I know what'll happen. All my tools are up in the shop. I'll spend 9 or 10 trips getting all the tools down here that I need instead of just taking this lumber up to the shop and building it up there, and then I'll bring it back down whenever it's all fully assembled. Now, any of you guys that follow neighbor Doug's YouTube channel, One Eye Customs, will know that he already built pretty much the ultimate log bucking table, and I don't think there's a whole lot of room for improvement to what he did. Now, I'm not going to be building the same exact thing. I'm going to be building something just a little bit simpler because I think Doug's design works really well for a 2-person operation. The way his works is you have 1 person standing on one side cutting the logs, and then the cut rounds will actually roll down to the person near the splitter on the other side. Well, I'm usually working by myself, so I want to cut the rounds and have the splitter on the same exact side so I don't have to run around from one side to the other. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will leave a link in the description to Doug's Ultimate Log Bucking Table video where he built it and has used it. And it's pretty cool. All right, so we've got the rough shape of the bucking table framed out. We've got our workspace up top. We've got the legs underneath it. But I am fully aware that one 10-inch lag screw going through the beam down into the post is providing zero structural support to keep that leg from kicking any direction. So we need to go ahead and get this thing braced up. And then once we get that done, we can go ahead and start adding the rest of the runners that are going to make up the entire bed of the bucking table. Today's video is sponsored by Factor. If you've never heard of Factor before, they make meeting your nutritional goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. They have a team of gourmet chefs that create each meal using only ingredients with integrity to help you feel your best all day long. Too busy with your end of summer goals to cook, but you still want to make sure that you're eating well? With Factor, you can skip the extra step of running to the grocery store, chopping, cooking, preparing, and cleaning, while still getting the flavor and nutritional value you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready within just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy, and then get back to crushing your goals. So Lana and I actually do a fair bit of cooking at home, and we eat fairly healthy for the most part. My problem is not with what I'm eating, it's how much I'm eating. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I was an athlete in high school. I played basketball and volleyball, and then I went on to play volleyball at the Division I level in college, and I still eat like an athlete. I still eat like I'm waking up for 6 a.m. lifting sessions and then a 3-hour practice in the evening. And it's just not healthy because, as you know, I use hydraulic cylinders to do a lot of my heavy lifting nowadays. With Factor, it's like having your own personal chef who pre-portions your meals, and when it's gone, you just stop eating. Most meals are around 550 calories, which is perfect if you're trying to lose a little bit of weight, or if you're happy with the weight that you're at, it'll help you from overeating and adding extra pounds. The biggest benefit is not only portion control, but it's convenience. There's a lot of nights where I'm out working on a project until dark. Lana's inside the house with our 3-year-old and 8-month-old, and we're just too busy sometimes to take the time to chop, prepare, cook, and clean up after. And so we'll end up just ordering a pizza or two. But with Factor pre-prepared meals, we can have dinner in under 2 minutes with none of the prep work and none of the cleanup without sacrificing flavor. It is not your average frozen TV dinner from the grocery store. So head over to factor75.com or use the link in the description below and use promo code HOMETOWN50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. Again, that's promo code HOMETOWN50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month of orders. All right, so now we've got all of our legs braced up. This thing is rock solid. And the next step in the process is, you can see I've already got all of my bed rails cut out. The problem is my original spacing I was thinking I was gonna do was, you can see 4 on, 4 off, 4 on, 4 off. So I was just, every 4 inches, I was gonna have another rail. The problem is I don't have enough to go all the way down. I'd be probably 3 or 4 short. And I don't want to go down to the sawmill and mill up a whole nother log just to get another 3 or 4 4x4x6 footers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my spacing. Instead of every 4 inches on center, I think I can do every 5 1/3 inches on center. And that will still land my rails every 16 inches. So I'll be able to come through and cut with the chainsaw and not have to worry about hitting the rails. So just had to do a little bit of math there and figure that out. All right, so everything's locked down and ready to go. I've got one final thing I want to do to this before I move it down to the wood yard, and that is add some kind of log stop on the end here. Now keep in mind, the whole idea of this is to have the chainsaw come in between these slats, so I can't just put a board across all those because the saw would cut it. So my first idea was to take a board like this and just screw it to the end, and that way you've got a little log stop there. And the reason I didn't like that idea is because if you put a couple of screws in the end here, you're screwing into end grain here, which that could very easily pull out. If you have a big log come rolling down, it could just rip that right off. So as with the majority of this project, I got a hold of neighbor Doug and said, hey, do you have any ideas before I do something hokey here? So I had him on FaceTime and he said, what about those little blocks down there laying on the floor, some of your scrap pieces, you know, a little triangle like that. And that way you're not screwing into the end grain, you'd be screwing into the side grain on these beams. And then he said, hey, don't you have one of these extra beams left over? And I said, I do. And that's gonna work perfect because this is the same material as those beams. So when I go ahead and cut those into 45-degree triangles, it will line up perfectly with these and actually be a pretty nice fit and finish. All right, there we go. It's all done. Let's get it moved down to the wood yard and take it on its maiden voyage. So one thing I'm being cautious of here is the balance of the log table itself. I'm trying to roll this log slowly to see if I have just one log all the way on the end, if it's going to tip the whole table up or not. This is about a 14-inch diameter maple log, and as you can see, the table's balanced well enough that I don't need any additional logs on the backside to keep the back end down. If it was a little tippy, obviously I would just need to be mindful to make sure I always had logs on the backside of the log deck as ballast, or I could put something underneath the front end of that overhang. All right, so it worked exactly how I drew it up, or I should say how neighbor Doug and I drew it up. I actually went over to his house right before I was getting ready to build this for about an hour and said, here's what I'm thinking about doing. I don't want to build it exactly like yours. I want to do something a little bit more simple. And we sat down and put pen to paper and came up with a good plan for it. But another benefit to this, aside from being able to cut the rounds up off the ground and also having all of your 16-inch on center marked out for you ahead of time with the rails, is now I'm right here next to the splitter, grab a round, pick it up, and right on the splitter. And I didn't bend my back at all to do that. It's all right here. Now, if you want to know the dimensions of this, when we were brainstorming over at neighbor Doug's, he's got an adjustable height Husky work table. And we were over there and we were playing with different heights and, you know, kind of figuring out what would be a good height for me. And we determined that I wanted my bed rails right in front of me to be about 29 inches tall. You know, 29 inches might sound really low, but you've got to figure you're going to have, I mean, this is a 14-inch log right now, so you got to add 14 inches on top of that, and to get your saw on top of it, I really wouldn't want to be starting my cut any higher than this. You're going to be up here with your saw, which could be kind of dangerous. So 29 inches is the bed height of this table, and we do have it tapered up a little bit towards the back, which again made rolling the log towards me a little bit easier. The length of this is not the biggest firewood bucking table out there. These rails are only 6 foot 3 inches long, and the reason I did that was I wanted to have an overhang here from this beam to the outer edge so I could clean cut all the way through without worrying about hitting this post or this beam. But I also wanted to make it so that it was long enough that if I got a log all the way to the edge, it wouldn't tip the whole table towards me. So 6 foot 3 inches, 24 inches from the end to the beam, and then about another 4 feet in between the two beams. And I think I forgot to mention the total width of the table is about 10 feet wide. So logs that are any longer than 10 feet long, they will, you know, when you cut them, they will just drop off onto the ground. Those ones you will have to bend over to pick up to get them on the splitter. But I have been wanting to build one of these for a while now, and not just for cutting up firewood poles like this, but also for slab wood off of the sawmill. I know what usually happens is I'll mill a log, the slabs will go off the side of the mill, I'll go in and grab them with the excavator and throw them in a pile. And before you know it, I'll have 5 dump trailer loads of slabs that need taken care of, and then at that point, it's just such a big task, you just keep putting it off longer and longer, and the problem keeps getting worse. Whereas with this, I can pull 4, 5, 6 slabs off of the sawmill, bring them over here, set them down, and the next time I'm out here, it would take me 5 minutes to cut them up with the saw, and then either split them if they need further splitting, or just throw them right into an IBC tote. So this is going to be multi-purpose. It's going to help me deal with the slabs off of the sawmill, as well as, you know, help me with splitting regular firewood with the Easton Made 37D. So anyway, that is our take on the firewood log bucking table. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.